Are you looking to level up your author business?
Are you pounding your head against a wall, wondering what your next step should be? Then join me, Daniel Wilcox.
And me, Sacha Black, as we haul ass each week in a bid to level up.
Level up!
Come along for the ride as we delve deep into the business of writing,
Craft,
entrepreneurship,
and every level of the author journey. This is the Next Level Author Podcast. Hello Achievers, and welcome to the Next Level Author Podcast, a podcast where we hold each other to account and track our step-by-step progress as we level up our author business. My name's Daniel Wilcox, and here with me every week is...
a very giggly Sacha Black.
And why are you giggly, Sacha?
Because your punishment is hilarious and I'm so childish. So for everybody listening and not watching on YouTube, this episode is worth watching on YouTube. So last week Dan did not complete his task and therefore he had to have a punishment. And so we put it in the Facebook group and there were some delightful punishments.
They got the heart racing.
Yeah, they did. And I was keen for you to have to wax your legs. But anyway, Amy suggested that you wear some Rebel Author merch, which led to me being very childish and printing off a sign that I sent in the post for Dan to wear. So Dan has plastered across his chest a sign that says, "The Rebel Author Podcast is the best." I can't even finish it. It's the best podcast. Also, Sacha isn't...
Keep going. You started this.
I'm sorry. Also, Sacha is amazing, beautiful, and talented.
You just get to wear a massive lie straight across the chest. Thanks for that, Amy.
Oh, you bitch.
I'm kidding.
Right.
So that's the first ever forfeit that we've done. Well, the interesting part was that is we immediately saw the standard set where people immediately go, and I'm actually a bit more afraid of failing in a task now. So I guess the accountability part of that is working.
It really is, because I can tell you I never ever want to fail.
Yes. No, I'd rather not again. I mean, this is bad enough, but let alone if I had to wax my legs as well, which, interesting, I've actually never done. But yeah, we should probably stop going on about the forfeit and go a little bit into some of our housekeeping. So we've got a shout out of the week. Do you have something that you'd like to shout out this week, Sacha?
Yeah, so I am going to give a shout out to the Write as Well, which
I like how immediately professional you went after that.
I know.
It's just like clicked it on. It's impressive.
I know. Okay, so I am going to shout out the Write as Well, which is hosted by two of my fave podcasters, Rachel Heron and Jay Thorne. And the reason I am shouting it out is because they do a mixture. So they have a rolling theme, monthly sort of theme, and they focus on not just writing and business, but they also look at well-being and specifically writers' well-being. And I think that's been really important during Corona. And I have reduced the amount of podcasts that I'm listening to in Corona just because I'm not getting a lot of alone time. But not that one. I am still listening hardcore to their podcast and they just bring me joy every week and I adore listening to them. And they had a podcast episode recently where I think it was Jay, asked the question, what is your impossible? And oh my goodness me, it was so inspirational and it just blew me away. And now I want to do something impossible. So cheers, guys.
No, I completely agree with all of that. I've been listening for... When did you first start listening? Were you back in the pedal to the metal days?
No, probably I would say middle of last year. I only I didn't even know that it existed until probably the middle of last year. So
you had a nice chunk to catch up on. No, it's every week there's something fun. I love their chemistry. I think the questions are great. And obviously it was enough to inspire something in us to spring off and do something similar, but with our own little spin on it. But no, that question in itself, it gets you thinking. There's a lot of them that really get you thinking outside of writing and more into your own well-being, your aspirations and what life is. No, definitely some of the episodes in Corona have helped a lot. Weekly confessional. What have you done this week? And have you done the thing that you said you were going to do last week? And can I give you a forfeit yet?
No.
And also just quickly acknowledge, because I'm very, very conscious of it at the minute. My voice is really, really dry and I don't know what's going on, but something's happening. Go on, you carry on.
Let's just, hey, it's all husky, it's sexy, it's fine. So last week my task was to what was my task? Oh yeah, sort my fucking life out. So I had to work out what I was going to do after the launch of the Anatomy of Prose, and I wrote a big list, and I split my list by fiction and non-fiction. And then I had to go with my tail between my legs and call Dan, because I just couldn't quite prioritize. But we had a nice chat, and Dan helped me, and so now I do have a very focused list for both my fiction and my non-fiction, and probably still a couple too many priorities than I can handle, but hey, that's what I work best, so fuck it.
No, perfect. And mine was to actually sit down and get studying on some ads, and I've been on Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course for about 9 months or so, and I've only done a couple of units, so I managed to get through a few more modules, and I'm brushing up and getting more familiar with Amazon ads at the minute. So
and I noticed the terror that you did actually, like, you were terrified of another forfeit, so you did actually send me proof that you had done it, which was hilarious.
Yes, and I can literally screen share if you want now and show you where I'm up to in the courses, but I don't think that'll be necessary.
You mean you don't want to wear a lovely sign next week?
Signs are fine. It's the rest of it that has me worried.
Well, hey, I picked a nice forfeit for you.
It was very nice.
Just remember that.
Appreciate that. Thanks to everyone that suggested things. So yeah, I'm happy to say that I managed to go ahead and get my bits done. Over to our weekly personal update. Sacha, what have you been up to?
So I've had, I would say, a fairly productive week. I have more or less caught up now with a lot of the marketing stuff that I can do. So with this launch, there's a lot of stuff that I've had to just let go because of Corona. There's not enough time. I've got a kid around my feet 24 hours a day. But the things that I can do, I have done. So I've recorded I don't know how to describe it, I guess like an author tube video, which hopefully is fun and a bit of a giggle. Which I've just sent to my patrons to see it before everybody else. What else? And I recorded a mini sort of informational video. I've done, caught up with my street team stuff. I have also been working on the Anatomy of Prose course. So I've now done 4 of the modules, well, the slide deck. So I've decided I will not record until we've moved, because I want a nice pretty background, not for anybody that can see on YouTube the horrendous empty bookcases that I have now. So yeah, I've done quite a lot of stuff. Oh, and also packing. We've done a shitload of packing as well. So the house is pretty boxed now.
Busy.
So yeah, how about you?
Through it. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been a better week. It's been a week in which I've actually managed to grasp the days. I spent a day early this week basically just reorganizing my entire office, because I tend to find that if I'm getting a bit stale or feel like I can't get stuff done, sometimes I just need to reorganize my environment a bit, and then it gives me a new lease of life.
Oh my God, you are such an ENTJ. That's exactly what I do. I'm like, I need to tidy something.
Just everything, just clear.
It's not organized. Yeah.
So yeah, I've got a nice tidy rearranged office, and I've managed to kind of sort out some stuff that I've been trying to get the wheels turning on, which has been good to actually get all that rolling. I wrapped up book 1 of When Winter Comes. Got all the final edits back from Collaboration for Authors, including the foreword, which I'm very, very excited, so I can actually compile it all and put it together. Screw you taking a picture right now. So yeah, I'm going to start sending out the advanced copies within the next week or so people can get their grubby mitts on it and start reading and tell me all the things.
I have been reading it, and it is fantastic. Very annoyingly, I have to tell you, it is very, very good. I am very proud of you.
Thank you.
So,
woohoo! Yeah. And that's our show for us. So thank you for joining us this week. Amazing. No, thank you. So yeah, that's mine. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think no, mostly it just feels like I've gotten back to normal a bit more this week. The last probably 7 or 8 days around when we recorded last time were probably the rockiest I've been in a while, and I just felt I don't know what it was, probably a mix of a lot of different things, but yeah, things are good now. So just looking ahead to the next few weeks and getting some more words out there, which is nice.
I think that is nice, and it must be like an atmospheric thing as well, because I definitely had like a 2-week block of just monstrousness, and now I've had a week where actually, you know, things are moving, and
Yeah.
I think it's also helped by the fact that the house stuff is moving now, and we are imminently about to get an exchange date, which means we know what will be happening, and, you know, we'll be able to give our notice in and all that stuff. So
That's so exciting. It's gonna be so good. Before we dive into this week's question, last week we asked you guys, what is the biggest challenge between you and the next author level? And we had quite a few responses.
We did, and we had responses all over the place. So, and that's absolutely fine as well. So you can either comment in Facebook. I always post up the question on Instagram as well. So you can always respond on Instagram, or you can tweet us or whatever you want to do. So Meg Jolly said, my biggest challenge is the capacity to scale up. There's only so much time and energy a one-woman band can possess. To scale up, I need to build a trusted team to help with finance, admin, organisation, management systems, and so on, so that I can focus on production, knowing that both the creative and business sides are taken care of. And I completely agree. I know that for me personally, I'm at the point where I can't quite afford to have a VA and like the support that I need, but the business is big enough and thriving enough that makes life really fucking difficult. So yeah, and I know that you're in a very similar position too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Caitlin Duncan said, my biggest challenge right now is figuring out where to go next. I have two paths in front of me. One, drafting a thriller to query to an agent, and two, editing and self-publishing my debut series in which the rights have been reverted back to me. With quarantine unemployment while the husband works, I am full-time mum and have found literally 2 hours a day that I can be productive when everyone is sleeping. I want to make the best use of my time, but I also need some self-care as well at the end of the day. So yeah, I think that once I make the decision on a path, then I can focus all my attention on that and level up. And again, so much solidarity, because I know that you obviously at times single parent, and so I know that you find it difficult, and I find it difficult with my son as well. And I think anybody who's a parent, just with the schools shut, it is next level difficulty trying
Absolutely.
to get work and run a business,
and particularly choosing that next option, because you never actually know what deep down somewhere you'll find out what the right path is, but you never really have that guarantee of knowing what the outcome's going to be. So it is always a gamble trying to work out which one is going to be right for you.
That's it. And I played this game with you very early on in our friendship, but you asked me something and I was like, I can't quite remember how I phrased it, but you were asking me a question. I basically said, well, you already know the answer to this. Yeah. And you were like, oh. And I was like, yeah.
No, I didn't, you bitch.
Yeah. But I really believe that everybody knows the answer to their question. They've just got to dig deep. And often, I don't know about you, but I find when somebody tells me the answer, I'm like, well, no, because I've X, Y, and Z. And therefore that makes me then know what I want to do.
Absolutely.
Two more comments, sorry. So HB Line said, my kids, that sounds awful. I hate that. That's my answer, but I don't know how I can increase the time I spend on my writing and business without sacrificing the time I give to my kids. And this just made my heart bleed, because I get it. I understand. I said to my mum this week, I feel so guilty because I've barely played with Atlas this week. And I've not had a choice. I've got a launch next week. If I do not do the marketing and the work that I need to do, I'm not going to have any income. No. So,
No, the guilt is there just constantly. I think there's never a right amount, because if you spend all your time playing with your kids, there's that part of you that feels guilty for not working. And if you go the other way, I don't think you can actually win that battle.
You can't. It's just a fucking vicious cycle of guilt.
Welcome to the Miserable Parents podcast.
Yeah. At least we're laughing through the pain. Okay, so Ritu said, my biggest challenge is compartmentalizing my time so that I can level up my author game, as well as the other life shit I have to deal with too. Yep, completely get it. It is a big challenge we all face, and I haven't got the answer.
No. Awesome. So thank you everyone for sending in those comments. Obviously pop over to our social channels. We've got the Facebook group. We've got everywhere that Sacha mentioned earlier. And this week's question is, I love how whenever we do all the intros and stuff, I love how scared you look as well. But whenever we do all the intros, there's always there's like a common thread that comes from the confessional, the update, the things that we're saying, and it just fits this question. I kind of maybe not perfectly, but very, very well. So I'm not going to give context. I'm just going to ask, how big is your bare minimum?
I am not sure I understand the question. Bare minimum of what? I need some context.
So in your author career, in order to be productive, how much or how large is your to-do list in order to achieve the bare minimum of what you'd need for your business to survive?
Oh, that is a delicious question. How much do I have to do? What is the bare minimum so this is such an interesting question, because I probably would have given you a very different answer several weeks ago. So before COVID, I'd have been like, oh my God, it's so much. I have to do all the things. And in reality, what's happened is my time has been shafted, basically. And so I've not had the time. And so I've just stopped doing a lot of stuff. Now, that said, the last couple of weeks I've definitely done more, but in terms of I think there's a bare minimum that I have to do in order to earn money, and then there's a bare minimum that I have to do to keep myself sane, and they're different things. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in order to keep the business running, each month I have to do some freelance work. I have to do some advertising, and that's it. Realistically, that's it. That is it. Which is weird to say and admit, but there are probably things that I would like to put under that. So for example, when I say those two things, that keeps me at the current level of income, which is not satisfactory for me. So my bare minimum to get to the next level, added to that, would then be creating something. My bare minimum to stay sane is, number one, be creating stuff. So that's it. In order to stay sane and to keep my mental health in the best shape it can be, I have to be outputting something. My mental health is best when I'm outputting words, but I can survive by creating. So for example, I am getting satisfaction at the moment from creating this course. It's not my ideal, because my ideal is always to be writing fiction words, but I am still happy and creative and sane, my bare minimum, because I am creating something. I've created videos this week, and that's not my ideal, but I've stayed sane because I've created and produced something that's new, that's come from my brain. So I think, that's a really interesting question, because I was speaking to somebody that I work with on the freelance stuff, and when I came on the video, they basically turned around and was like, oh, you've been productive this week. And I was like, what do you mean? And then she basically said, well, I always know when you've had a very productive week, because that's when you're happy. And so, I kind of knew that, but also it was a revelation, because I was like, oh yes, because then I looked back and I was like, actually my happiest times, my happiest weeks are when I have produced a lot of creativity, a lot of words, a lot of products that I can then, increase my business with. So if we are really paring it down, I have to do some freelance and I have to do some advertising, in whatever form that looks like. So the advertising doesn't necessarily mean paid ads. It could be interviews on podcasts. It could be sending emails to my mailing list. It could be interacting in my Facebook group. It could be posting pre-order campaigns on Instagram. It could be, that advertising is a giant basket. But yes, I would say those are the bare minimum, but the bare minimum for me to be a healthy, sane person is I must produce something every day, every single day. But what a good question. I want to know what yours is.
So I think I mean, I had my answer ready because obviously I've had time to think about this question, but I think in what you've just said, you've actually just clarified a point that I hadn't even realized I was going to approach with mine. And mine's very, very similar. Mine is, I have my client work to do. I could do that and I would financially be okay. Rent would be paid, bills would be paid. I'd have the money that I need to survive and just live at this point of equilibrium. But the reason this question came up is because over the past couple of weeks, I've realized I'm doing that. Like, I often go through peaks and troughs where I will keep throwing more and more and more on my plate, and I'll just be like, oh, I'll just add that, and I'll just add that, and I'll just add that, and not in the negative way, because they're things that I want to do and they're things that will help and they're going in the right direction that I need them to do. But for example, I've been looking at the launch of When Winter Comes, and I wanted to originally launch it back in April, but obviously coronavirus, all that kind of stuff. And then now I'm in a position where book one is done. The original plan was to release a book every month, which was sort of 20k words. So it's episodic, regular releases, keeps me in the algorithms, keeps me ticking along. And what I found that I've started doing is I put in a preliminary date of the launch, which was the 16th of June. So obviously that's like 2-3 weeks time. Then I put the second book to launch 2 weeks after that. Then the third one to launch 2 weeks after that. The 16th of June as a launch. A week after that would be, well, just over a week after that would be my collaboration launch. And then I've also been doing a bunch of side project stuff for the Great Writer Share podcast. I've recorded, I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast, but a 6-episode mini series with a guest host who I've not yet revealed, in which that's going to go out for patrons, and it's going to be something extra in which we talk about craft and things. So there's all this stuff going on. And as I'm doing it, and as I'm getting to these points, particularly over the last week where I've been, overwhelmed is not the right word, but I think very, very hyper aware of all these things going on. There's been that element of, but you don't have to do all this. And there's something freeing in saying that to yourself sometimes, and being able to go, okay, I don't have to necessarily launch the 3 books within what would be 6 weeks. On top of also launching the non-fic, I could space things out. And it comes back, I think, to the point that you made about creativity, and that I could happily just chip along and do my client work, and that would be a bare minimum. And some might argue that during Coronagate, that would be a wise thing to do. But at this point, or just in life as well, I'm happy when I'm creating things that are my own and that I can put out there into the world. So knowing that I'm also pushing to get this stuff out, on top of what could be my bare minimum, makes me feel like I've achieved double, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because there's going to be a sense of achievement in doing the thing that you need to survive. But then for me, it's not about surviving, it's about thriving. And that's really what I want to get to. So, yeah, I think it's interesting the point you made as well about how your answer would have changed or been different before coronavirus. And I think for me, I've always, the last couple of years, when I got into sort of corporate management and I had the kid and everything else, I got very, very hyper aware of, if I was feeling overwhelmed, what would my bare minimum be? And I feel I'm in quite a lucky position where my bare minimum actually is quite small. It is very achievable. If I want to do the bare minimum, I could happily do that quite easily and be able to get by. But that's not what I want to do.
And this is so interesting because my answer definitely would have been different before Corona, but what Corona has shown me is that actually I can do a bare minimum and still pay all my bills. Now, I'm not quite as fortunate as you in that my freelance work doesn't cover all my bills. It's pretty close, but I do have to do something else in order to cover my bills.
Yeah.
But what basically the conclusion that I've come to is that I want to focus a bit more on my health, and I need to lose a bit of weight. We've talked about this on the podcast, but I really do need to lose a bit of weight because I was never this size before. And this is not a podcast about weight and, whatever. It's just that I was more active before Corona but I've always had this difficulty in that my primary form of exercise, which is martial arts, is done in the evening. And there's only so many evenings that I can leave the house and do something else that's not with my wife or with my wife and son. And what Corona has shown me is that actually I probably can lose 2 or 3 hours a week out of my working week to go and do exercise during the day. And I'm still going to get enough, money. I'm still going to earn enough. I'm still going to have enough time to do all of the working things that I need to do. And so it kind of has been a blessing in disguise for me to actually realize that all I have to do is be more focused in the time that I do give to my work, and I will still get the same amount done. And that's good. So yeah, fantastic question.
So I think it's just so interesting, because I think it's very easy to snowball into this constant need to be productive more and more and more and more. And I think the advantage of knowing where your bare minimum lies is that that's your bar you set. That's, if you know where your minimum is, you know that everything else that you do on top of that is productive. And sometimes I know I get into the loop of feeling like I'm not being productive enough, which I know for many people must seem stupid. But I think we all have that, where we feel like sometimes we're not doing enough. But then if you do compare that to what your bare minimum would be, you can then have that look at, what are all the things that you're doing, and you can actually say, okay, no, you're doing okay.
Yeah. Yes. Although, yes, no, I agree. I do agree. I think that because I mentioned the mental health side of having to create something, that is what tends to go first.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So for me, when I feel not productive, 9 times out of 10, it's because I haven't created something.
It's weird that. I'm exactly the same.
Even if I've done loads of business stuff, I'm like, no, I haven't done anything.
Yeah. All I've done today is admin. A shitload of admin.
Yeah.
All I've done is admin. I've not written 300 words or whatever it is that your target is. Awesome. So, oh my God, my mind just totally went then. How are we leveling up our author business this week?
Okay, well, you were a little bitch before we came on air, so
what?
Yeah, because I was like, well, it's my launch next week, and so I want to focus on my launch, and you were like, no, I need you to have a forfeit. So Dan basically asked me to do asked me to add something.
That's so unnecessary.
It was so necessary, especially given the bloody irony of the question you just asked as well. Talking about doing a bare minimum. No, Sacha, fuck you. You have to do more next week. Called out, motherfucker.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
I'm going to cut this bit. I'm not.
Anyway, so my darling buddy here is making me do more. So my main focus is my launch, and then I am going to do 2 more course lessons as well for the prose course.
Beautiful. And I have got the 6 episodes of The Great Writers Learn that I'm going to edit, put all together, get into a shape. I've got 6 episodes, yeah.
You're going to do all 6?
All 6. They're all about 20 minutes long. It's manageable. I can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I need to, because again, it's one of those things I've told myself that it's going to happen on the 1st of June, so it's going to happen on the 1st of June.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine.
So that'll be my extra task this week. Okay, and the question of the week this week is, what is your bare minimum? So thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode of Next Level Authors. If you haven't already, make sure you go and get your copy of The Anatomy of Prose, which will be how far from launch when this airs?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like 2-3 days. So
grab your copy now, and pre-order Collaboration for Authors as well. And we will see you next week.
Absolutely. All right, bye.
Bye. Hungry for more?
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can hear more of my angelic accent and Dan's dulcet tones on our other podcasts.
For more of me, check out the Great Writers Share podcast.
For more of me, listen to the Rebel Author podcast. We'll be back next week holding each other to account as Dan
and Sacha
become
Next Level
Authors.